How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about you? How are things going?
Uh, I think good.
Yeah.
Trying to see if the tech is working the way that I hope that it will.
So if people are joining us on Zoom, how is that now?
Hi, how are you? Sorry, lasted
Start with investing.
Stands on anything. Visible, dirty, investors.
Is on our agenda about the community commissions and special meetings tonight. So two small agenda items. We're going to post it all over the agenda shop. So the next meeting, those requirements of correspondence and reports for reps. That is our for this evening. So everyone else that is and everyone okay. Joe and Maria, that's the second, thank you. All those in favor of amending the agenda? Awesome. Thank you so much. Great. All right, next, this is the week of motion to approve meeting minutes from the March 24th meeting. So moved on the chair, seconded by Joe, all those in favor, I also do this. Thank you. All right. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Berger, the board chair, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank you for your evening coming to a meeting like this isn't always easy for everyone, so I really appreciate your commitment and shows. So first, I want to extend a really warm welcome to everyone, but especially your teachers who came out tonight. That's what I can only assume was a very perfectly common event of the day. So thank you for joining us out today. You've shared with teachers, you've shared with our administrators what being instruction actually looks like day to day. That perspective really matters. It's an important part of this conversation. We're grateful for the hard work you do every single day in the classroom for your students, so we appreciate that. Who's your parent? I know many of you are here because you're concerned and frustrated with the area. You took the time to reach out to ask us questions and to advocate for your kids. And that's exactly what we should be doing. All of us are parents, that's what we all do. We encourage you, and tonight is the direct result of that. So we made a very intentional choice tonight to set aside a regular board meeting to focus entirely on reading instruction. Now, as a quick update or small agenda item, squeeze between a budget presentation and a facility report, for example, but as a full conversation, because the topic in your questions deserve time and attention. We also want to be very clear about something. The board relies on the expertise of educational leaders and administrators, which your voice is essential. We also recognize that a strong doesn't always translate seamlessly into real classrooms. Sometimes there's a gap between what's designed, what's delivered, and what's experienced at home. That gap between expectation and reality is exactly what all these families better understand. So our goal this evening is simple. We're going to listen, we're going to learn, and have more open and conversation. Not a presentation that ends the conversation, but one that helps move forward. It's exactly why we're here tonight, instead of sending them money. So to allow time for real discussion, I'd ask my fellow board members to keep their questions and comments in their hand. And I can listen. So here's how the meeting's going to go. We'll begin with a presentation from our administrators, superintendent director of curriculum development lecture. Principal Walton, associate principal Houston. Will provide up-to-date student details of the how and document. The following presentation that should last about 30-ish minutes will open up the floor for comments and Q&A. There's a sign-up sheet right in the back table for you to write your name, address, and contact information. We'll take comments and questions from you after the presentation. If you've got to join us online, anybody out there listening, please type your question in the chat. We can go to a story and the discussion. So let's begin with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Just before we get into it, I promise, as Carolyn mentioned, tonight, not necessarily very good for me. But just some housekeeping items, if you haven't noticed, this is our normal venue, we're not designed to travel. So what we try to do, obviously, work with a lot of different that come from the community, come here. So those who will be watching online, the quality of the video and the audio may not be what we're used to. That did think it was right to have everyone come down to central office and the very small one, probably how long here tonight. So we're doing the best we can, but that didn't happen overnight. A lot of people worked really hard to make this happen tonight. Particularly our custodial staff, Anthony and Joe, you see him say thank you, he's one of the important scenarios here. Fran, that's how very bad, we worked tirelessly over the last week or so to set this space up. It's not going to be perfect, we're gonna do the best we can, as Terry mentioned, go online, we go into the chat, try to monitor now, and on this one. The event developed, we'll try to get every question and out. Tonight is not about anything other than it's hearing from all of you over the last several weeks. It's about really all stuff necessarily. About the health of the room, clearly when it comes to literacy instruction and everything through our condition, absolutely. We wouldn't be here right now. But that's okay, because we things can be hard at times, but at the same time, there are things that we have to work forward with. What tonight will not be is our apology door. That's not the intention tonight, but it's really more about facts. How we got here, where we are, more importantly, what we're going to be moving forward. I also recognize that this conversation, for good reason, has got emotion for a lot of people. As Karen said, that's okay. And the day, we're all on the same. What there's to be intentional. I do believe we can do more of this, less of everything to each other. Sometimes with emails and text and social media stuff don't necessarily, we lose that face to face because a human being on one. I say that I'm only going to speak for myself. I myself have got this message. And I should have, but I probably should have because I never actually come out with this list. My defense of this would probably happen. And whether it was right or wrong, I will accept that. I don't believe anyone had any bad intentions. Said over the last couple of weeks. But I do know that it's that I think it's problem. And it's followed with what we call our teachers. And when teachers, you don't hear it say. And that's the part where our teachers, I will. I have not beliefs to say that. So that's where my defensiveness is on when I'm parent, it's not intentional. Apologize if someone took it the wrong way. At the end of the day, they're all on the same. Regarding teachers, I think these are who you're going to hear from. Try to make this more of a conversation and talk actively. But we did initially ask teachers to participate. Initially, people more useful. But with everything, the temperature being so hot right now, there were some reservations. We want to come here tonight. I would never ask someone to do something. So, you're unfortunately, this evening, you're going to us. However, that same group of people did offer that at some point having literacy and group representation here, literacy, and you could go with their classrooms and meeting with parents. They would be willing to do that. This wasn't something that a lot of people were comfortable with. And I have to respect. That said, I'm going to get into as quickly as I can. This is the main points and questions that I've heard from the community since we started having this. The first was abandoned learning altogether. The second was have a community Q&A forum. And the last is an independent review of
Yep. We're adjusting your levels
Um,
for people online.
and the third was independent review of our rules. I can't do the first request without the last one. And I do believe there's validity in doing this for a little bit. How's it going? Because this conversation has gotten so outreach at this point, I do agree that it's time for all of us all the time now to see how it's going. I have no problem. I've had conversations with a lot of people in the room. I think while we're sitting here and saying, I'm never making the concept. But we were doing things on the side to see how we react to what the community is telling us. Was. Obviously, the second request, that's done. Well, good luck, clear heard, and want to make sure that people will have everything. But with regards to the third request, a lot of you have sent me suggestions. I appreciate it. I really did. One of the things that I can do is go ask other colleagues that have been in a situation like this. That, who have you just get some opinion from people that are in roles like mine that are dealing with this throughout the state. As I was getting at those conversations over recommendations, a lot of the recommendations can be used there in the same place. So we have engaged with Dr. Rachel Gateman. She is a professor of literacy at UConn. This is just a small part of her biography. It's public. We also actually have hard copies of the biography right here. Dr. Gabriel is independent, objective, one of the foremost experts on literacy. Not just highly recommended colleagues from all state, but every place that I've been talking even with colleagues, even with teaching staff members in the district, share the idea that we're confident, or even Dr. Gabriel here. I have not heard that or objective opinion on that. What she has agreed to come in and do exactly what was asked, and doing very well. That work is going to start very soon, maybe. You're in the process of trying to schedule. There's been a lot of conversation when it comes to dyslexia. We are in that process too. I just don't have anything that can find at the moment. But what we are trying to do now is find another expert to get something. She's an expert in her field. And her full biography is here. You can certainly read it. Like, yeah, Dr. Gabriel was going to try to come this evening. She had a scheduled conflict. But what she asked me to do, because I'm going to be honest, there may be questions tonight that I can answer, and I don't think anybody can also. But Dr. Gabriel is not just interested in doing her work within the district with the staff, she's also interested in hearing certain matters. What she's asked of me was this evening, all the questions and concerns that are gathered in this process and share them with her. And she intends on addressing them in her report. The report will be public. You can give it to everyone. And I'm being transparent. She's an expert in the field. If she tells us to do something, I'll do it. She may come back and say, do the first thing I was asking, abolish the program. I don't have that answer this evening, but if she comes back and says get rid of it, I have no problem. I'll get rid of it. If she comes back and says you need to tweak it, I will honor that. I will try to facilitate that. If she comes back and says don't do anything, then we all have to accept that this is what's review. I will do all of that, but I have to be transparent. I said some of you I will do that, assuming I have the resources to do. So there's one little caveat that I have to mention. I don't know what she's going to come back with. She hasn't started her work yet. But when she does, if there's a financial component to it, as it stands today, we're designated $300,000 for finance for district level ELA and literacy. We have the resources currently as it stands today. If those resources aren't there, when our work comes in, we have to figure out how we're going to pay for whatever set of recommendation. I don't know what that answer is sitting here on Google. We'll figure it out. But the reality is, there is a component, I'll stop short saying I guarantee on whatever she says, because I don't know if I'm gonna have the staff, the funding resources. But if she comes back and makes that recommendation, I have no issues whatsoever, and speak on behalf of the administration, they don't. That's it for me. This is really about getting the fact of our culture, shape of 10%. I'm gonna move on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to do my best to be as clear, concise as possible. But I think I have way too much. Apologize in advance. And sorry, taking way too much here. But I'm Cory, the director of curriculum assessment. And my goal during my time is three components to it. The first is our time, how we got here, how we selected it, and what has happened since, also the data. I want to be able to have some conversations that what they around data, what are they, and then it's going to and also I'll do my best by the so this is not here to involve anyone with intelligence, but just to make sure that we're all on the same. But I wanted to make sure that we had working there when it came to reading. And one thing about reading is that in its most simplistic form, we're talking about the ability to look at written work, figure out what they said, understand it. Well, that's a super good downward. One visual that has anything for a long time has been where you can see the many different aspects and so we are talking about language comprehension as well as word recognition. Just under those two key aspects are many different subsets. So when we're talking about literacy, we're discussing all these things that help a student understand what words mean. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to get. So how do we get here? Do that, we have to go all the way back to June. Connecticut passed the word legals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here. Or,
Yeah.
there we go.
And you.
Yep.
So Connecticut. You can hear me, right?
It's for,
Good.
it's,
Good. All right, so in June 2021, Connecticut passed the right to read lists. In fall of 2022, the district, now this is before a lot of us were in the roles that we are in the district or in our current position. Previous leadership decided that they were going to start researching the programs that the state was actually calling for, which at the time was only 6 programs. And they also decided to apply for a waiver. Well, one of the major things that I want to point out is out of the 6 programs, 3 were already taken off for identical due to the fact that Xavier has studied at NYU, seeing that 3 of the programs on the 6 were deemed culturally strong. So coming in, we were only ever looking at those 3 programs. In December of 2022 is when the waiver process began. And in March 2023, teachers were asked to review those 3 programs. Now, one of those programs were actually all virtual, expeditionary learning. We didn't need to bring that in-house because teachers could go online. You can go online right now. How you put that program. But in terms of the other, you amplify or you need the physical materials. So we have our teachers doing those 2 programs based on their responses. In June, we decided that we were going to move forward. Now, one thing I also find. The 23-24 school year was not legislated mandated. So we're gonna pay that for the buffer school. Because the right to do legislation asked for everyone to be following. We wanted to use the 23 school year as a year where we can pass literacy program. It gave us a 3-year to determine, is this program going to be right for us? Or should we move on? Now, in any test, we want to make it by academics. But we actually had something guiding our process and our implementation. So in Unit 23, we created the literacy program testing group. Aside that, we have a group of working teachers and department leads who help to develop research questions. Now, we use this as our learning before going to SARE. Because, as I said, we wanted research-based way to determine if what we were doing is going to work. The question that we were looking at, these 3. Now, I want you to know that none of these questions have to do with any particular program, it has to do with quality, literacy, and construction. So to boil down these 3 aspects, we were trying to see how can we effectively support our students in the meaning-making process? Also, how much time would it be for us to actually implement quality instruction? And the final one, what assessments in order to plan our instruction, whether those will be formative assessments or the other units. So we wanted to have a clear plan that guided our implementation. Once we knew we had we also wanted to support our teachers who were going to be in that assembly. So in June 23, we had our summer professional learning series. That's Chris Lanyon from that here. We actually started to apply professional learning and prepare our teachers who are going to very new curriculum. We also knew there were the shifts. Now the science of reading has showed us the shifts in instruction that we would have to implement along with something like PAR or any of the other programs on the list. So we decided that we would also enter our professional books. So that's what we shift in the balance, which is actually talking about moving from balance literacy into structural literacy. In August of 23, we started our professional learning series where teachers came in, they had opportunity to obviously we also had facilitators from our coming to teach us more about the program itself. In fall 23, we were approved for a transitional waiver. Transitional waiver means that they were fine with the fact that foundation, but they did not approve of our vocabulary and comprehension. So we have a different program. This is part of the reason why we have decided to test or during this meeting. Superintendent Jan Rosio and myself, that transitional waiver to see continue our previous curriculum, but that was unsuccessful. And during the 2024 school year, I wanted to just provide you see the professional learning for both as well as our to support our teachers with the community. After a year of implementation, this was some of the key. Our teachers from our working group, our teachers from the 10 classrooms of our testing program said they liked the framework versus the spread nature and some of the other programs. They discussed the fact that we have pretty loud, they like awareness, how we competitive daily. One, they enjoyed the kinetic units, how we address comprehension and literacy. It asked students to read real books. And that the toolkit lesson also aligned with students. But also there was still some concern. And I want you to be able to see some concerns that I had with that here. Like we knew there would be a transitional gap moving from foundation at its own open sequence to our pool, which was a new. We knew that there was some standard alignment concerns. So we started to look at that because a lot of them is developing, a lot of standards in the future. The rubrics were more aligned to content than they were skills. And then the assessments, they weren't common assessments because of the framework. So building some of the data that, here's what I want to say. Every year, in the time range of December to February, I present our next generation account next to our board. You can see here that on the right side is our district development data. On the left side is the data specific year to equivalents. They both share a similar theme pattern. One thing that you'll also know that years jump. The first year that you see data for means 19, and we skip right over 20. We all remember what happened in the spring of 2020. Even though we don't like to think about that time period, there was a major impact. And impact was not only to us as educators, parents, but also for our children going to school. I know that from a personal home level too, because my child went to school here at Oakland in that 2020-2021 school year, spin term. He had a much different learning experience than he or she had before COVID. We see the impact of that. You can look at any accountability scoring data across the state from other districts, and they share this similar. But what you also see is that in 23 and 20, we start to rebound. You see that same result inside of the equivalent. But I know we want to go back deeper into the literature. So I want to also have a comment of that data. So with the data that we have and the assessments that we need to do, going back to our STAR report, we're not looking at every aspect of literacy or testing inside of our screens. We are testing word recognition, and that's with our data versus screens. We're also testing with the smart balance assessment, which is way over here at the end of that world. It's comprehension. And it's a very specific type of assessment. Thinking about smart balance, it's not testing literacy, not all aspects of literacy. It's a criterion reference that's testing a very specific aspect. Okay, so as that, then how those students are learning grade level standard, not how they compare to other students. So it's a task at one point in time when they're in student against another. So we're not measuring we're measuring that's my standard, the key skills against themselves. Now it's always tempting to measure them against other students, but that's not what. So I want to make sure that we all are making with that. So why this matters? Mainly because we're understanding the progress in the participants. So if there was any takeaway to that aspect of mastery of grade level skill and seeing how well our students are doing year over year and giving grade level content, they have the ability to master content. This is a great sample. This is what students are asking. So great, really, you can get capacity, but they're also given a question. Mentors are nervous about our performance, take more details from capacity that best support this idea. In many cases, this is the first time students are seeing questions like this, even though we are preparing. In most cases, we as adults That's what we can find out. Movie. You can say one, the students are being asked to take a multi-select. So there's a lot going in there. We can call onto that test. So what does that look like over time? Our smart balance score, even just the achievement. In 2018, 2019. On the left side, you see the number of students. And I apologize if those colors aren't coming out as vivid and this sad. But they're all colorful. You can't look at the 18, 19, to 21, 22, because that's not perfect for this guy. And data. But we can start at 21, 22. I mean, great. The other thing is raw cohort numbers. In a small district like Fox, most of those students are being promoted. So we can see that they roughly match in terms of their data. We do see consistent growth in terms of where our students perform from year to year as we go up. Now, again, because this is a criterion of these tests, we don't want to match kids against kids. And then compare that up. Kids and circumstances is not the right match. One piece that I do want to point out is the other side of our smarter them, which is a growth. Then, same way we're looking at raw cohort, this is a match cohort. Every kid in third grade assessment, when they take the assessment again, in fourth grade, they have a growth score that defines it. Because remember, inside of this criteria, you have to see how well students are passing. So all of these students are getting a growth score. Now, in 24-25, 48% of our students, or roughly half, are meeting that growth target. Most of our students on average are getting 83% of the way there to achieving the growth target. So we see a lot of growth from students. These are about measuring the progress at point. And knowing that there's always that temptation to see how well other students and other kids perform and how much work target to do. The first three districts, those that were included, are similar districts. What we used to call darks. This is what our growth targets look like compared to similar schools in our grade or our fourth grade. Now, there's always a want to look at how we are doing there for our students in line of line. 18, we're pretty comparable. The state on average is 69.6. And that's how much growth students are doing. Our general scores for the raw cohort systems are very similar. These colors are actually popping, so we can see our coming class and those are our students who came skin color. We can see a level of growth of them in terms of universal screen review compared to one not and very important recognition skills. Can you move back one? I apologize, I'm trying to both honor the fact that you know I'm thinking of a lot of it, but not breeze over things.
Student average club performance expectations.
Yes. So for these people who are races that are at or above.
Thank you.
So if you're looking across, that's grade K year over year, starting from one, all the way to 5 and 6 per year. But I also wanted to show you how these across over. Color coding are matching and how it's going using here. Darker for K, all the way to grade 3.
We don't have grade 4?
Grade 4 is not, assessment. So you're looking at all of the grade that I.
Okay.
Same thing with smart balance. Looking at our match goals, we're seeing positive trajectory. In terms of our students, that they're making, driving. Now, earlier in the presentation, I described that with me, February, December and February, year over year, I present our accountability that every year we have a similar conversation where our focus has been around times and the level of performance they have, and thinking about all of our students, how all of us. This year was no different. February this year, is strong. There is still somewhat of a gap in our IMC and all students. We are all thinking about how we keep our focus and how we're trying to increase those students as well. Because our IMC students are some. And also our students for a moment. And you know that year over year, those numbers are rising as well. So we want to make sure that we're also providing the necessary resources, support, scaffolds at those students. So some of the most common questions that come up. First one is, what other districts are we the only one? We're not. We're one of 12 districts in the state of Connecticut who actively were reporting. You can see this on the state of Connecticut website of all of their programs. We are one of 12, and they're very diverse communities. You can see that are listed here that select the program. Those are used to create queuing system. No, it's not part of the program. They are just thought explicitly for regular strategies that are allowing them to perform the skills. And that's part of the focus of the trial. Another question that comes up is how our values literacy. So it talks about the specific components of literacy that are listed: phonology, orthography, morphology, syntax, and semantics. All of these are components that are represented inside the art. I'm not ignoring. I was going to use picture because visual is happening, and I want to move to this slide. Inside of the foundational skills, you can see that it's focused on awareness. Here's our phonics component, and the times are framed from time. So Principal Walton will talk more specifically about how the timeline is. But inside of the framework, they show them listed. So then you see, like number 4, you didn't have opportunities to work with project tasks after being more specific phonics skills.
Do you know what percentage of that declarable text is actually declarable words?
I have not counted the words inside of this book. So I cannot tell you.
So you do not know how much declarable text. I don't know making for that.
Not off the top of my head.
5, 12, 13.
I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
I was asking, when they send home the test, at what percentage of those words in that book are actually?
Right.
They do not know,
What are they supposed to be?
80% higher. Yep. Best practice would be 90% the ideal, but to not know.
You can get that. Yeah. What questions will have?
Same thing in terms of the writing. You can see the different components are actually represented that opportunity to. One thing that we have focused on, the other authorities, has been around building collective advocacy for teams. We're trying to build those skills that are in order to support our systems. That has always been our goal. That's how we have always provided learning for our team, so that they can help our become stronger leaders. So the point today, how can that go? The two big numbers that you see is side of 23, 4, 25 are program test engineer and 0. And you'll notice that this past year, that dropped off significantly. The reason why those numbers are inside this program is because students receive their goals. Students get a variety of the volume of reading patterns. We want our students to have ample opportunity to practice, not just practice solely in that. We want them to also practice inside their authentic. And if you're thinking about authentic text, it's any text that's usually read or in the fall, in the or in appendix, in full. Those are the books that our students will carry and grow up and have that opportunity to all of their skills, all of their literacy skills, to understand what's happening. So we are trying to show that ample opportunities and practice with formal text, but also use all that. And text that they have motivation, because that's one thing that is a big component. Students need to be motivated to pick up, read a book, learn, rather than outside. I have no stake in art. I have stock in art. I have a statue on my arm representing the current reading art. If we were to leave art, I would be okay. Because for me, it's all about the literacy practices that we put in place to support all of our students. However, if we leave art, we then have to turn back to this, because we are legally required to select one of the programs or that part of the right. To bring us back to the same question for you. We still would be looking at this. How do we effectively build meaning for our students? How much time is necessary for our students? In the literacy, also what assessments.
You guys hear me? So thank you, Dr. Fletcher. At this point in the presentation, Associate Principal Anderson, I would like to showcase the work that we've accomplished with our teaching staff specific to literacy over the past 7.5 months that we've been administrators at Prudence. So our first slide, the first task that we had was to overhaul the academic schedule. To leverage as many instructional minutes as possible while ensuring that our day skills development to be appropriate for our learners. In order to give any program an opportunity to function the way that it's intended to, we need to allocate enough minutes for teaching. In the case of literacy, As seen in this graphic, any given grade level last year was running approximately 60 to 80 minutes daily. We were able to increase that to 110 minutes across the board. It's also important to note in this graphic that we took math from 60 minutes to 75 minutes daily. This is just a visual showing that the time allotted to literacy instruction is by 37.5% this year. So a typical day for our students, depending on their grade level. Can break down the 110 minutes in the following way. We've got phonics word work for about 30 minutes, reading at tier 1 classroom instructional level, an hour, and up to 30 minutes looking at writing throughout. One of the most important things that we have accomplished this year is a complete reboot of our MTSS system. That's our multi-tiered system to support that we call Console 3.0. It's completely changed the way in which we're able to support students. We meet every single day since the first day of school, and we created a system that gets students what they need when they need. So many of you may be familiar with MTSS, but those of you that are not, I want to walk you through what it looks like here. This target intervention system is a precursor to a special education identification. And the steps that we take to look at students that may have deficits. We look at the whole child here. Right? We're looking at all sides of the triangle, not only examining academic concerns, but we're looking at social, emotional, and behavioral ones too. So how does it go? Any staff member can bring up a concern. Once they do, we bring the concept team together and we have a meeting. We meet daily for 40 minutes from 9:07 to 9:47 each day. Every grade is assigned a day, and we work through the week that day. Who comes to the week? It's a collaborative team that includes administrators, psychologists, social workers, counselors, and grade level teachers. That's the core team that meets every day. Depending on the nature of that concern, we can also invite occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech pathologists, behavioral specialists, but in most cases, we're inviting our math or literacy interventions. These are the people that are requiring us to use them in intervention. At the meeting, we look at various data points, right? Determine a targeted intervention, and we use our interventions staff and our support staff at the bottom. The intervention runs approximately 6 weeks long. And then we follow up with a scheduled meeting to review student performance and progress after the intervention has been started. This continues throughout the year, depending on the student is responding. And in most cases, at the follow-up meeting, we change the targeted intervention or increase the level of intervention. So let's take a look at the tiered level. This is the triangle that I was referring to. Any school across the country, anywhere that you would look, any state, would have an approximately 80-20 distribution of our students. So 80% of all students would find success in a tier 1 classroom with their classroom teacher. However, in the graphic you see here, approximately 20% of all students would fall into tier 2 or tier 3 targeted intervention. And the difference between tier 2 and tier 3 is simply the intensity or the frequency of which those interventions. Last year, you can see that 23 students in K to grade 4 were receiving targeted intervention, which equals approximately 7% of our total school population. This year, we have 52 students in consult, 40 at the tier 2 level, and 12 receiving tier 3 intense intervention. That's an increase to 16.6% of our school population. If you remember back to that 80-20 reference that I made earlier, it may look like a problem, that number increased, right? That's not a problem, that's a fix. We identify what our students need, getting our students the intervention that they need when they need. Yes.
Can you hear me okay? I would like to add to the work that Principal Wald has shared to this point by talking a little bit about communication. So we identified early on this year that improving communication needed to be a primary focus. Our goal has been to bridge the gap in communication between school and home. We really wanted to make sure that when parents see a report card or a progress update, it's not just a set of numbers, but rather a clear reflection of the specific standards or skills the child is working to master. So we're looking to make updates more frequent and meaningful for families. To get this right, we started from the ground up. We've empowered our grade level representatives to lead the way, ensuring that the people closest to our students, our teachers, they're the ones shaping how we improve communication about academic progress. So since November, we've been rolling out unit letters for both ARC and Bridges. And in each unit letter, teachers are highlighting what standards and skills students will be learning during each unit. And in addition to that, grade level teams have drafted progress updates with the intention of increasing communication with families about how their students are doing with the standards targeted in each unit. In early March, we sent drafts of our progress updates to ensure that we were providing the clarity and information that families expect. We sent drafts home throughout 3 consecutive weeks in March, and at this time, we have 29 responses. So while we work on the how we communicate, we're also investing in the what we communicate. We've been engaging in professional development for our continuous professional development forms the foundation of our reporting. High quality instructional practices are essential for accurate literacy reporting. So what we've done is we've started the year with walkthroughs done by administrators and teachers, helping us to stay consistent and keep our literacy goals at the front and center. We've engaged with experts Jen Arney and Chris Lehman to equip teachers with high quality tools and rubrics that strengthen formative assessment and evidence-based instruction. And so just to wrap up our presentation tonight, we want to highlight that together, we all have the same goal. We want our students to read to the best of their ability.
Thank you, all the administrators, for sharing all the information with us. Now we move on to the Q&A portion of the meeting. I'll be moderating the discussion. As a reminder, we'll be taking comments and questions from those present and those who are joining us online. I do need to set a few parameters for this conversation does take place. So please avoid referencing specific students or staff members by name or any other identifying details. The board cannot address personnel or student matters. There are legal boundaries we must respect, and focusing on individuals presents us from really addressing the broader issues that affect everyone. So we understand that emotions may be high, we know there are strong feelings in the room tonight, and that's okay. That's how much everyone here cares about getting great. Our goal is to channel that into conversation that's respectful, constructive, and focused on solutions. So I'm going to start by just asking the board members initially if they have any very brief questions or comments before we open it up to the audience. And is that a no? I think principle. Thanks for the chat group. So I don't think anybody actually signed up on the sign up sheet we had that. So I think maybe we'll just raise hands, and when I acknowledge you, you can please stand and state your name, your address, and I wanted to sign up to sheet the picture first. Oh, please do.
No, thanks, Mr. Earlier. We are missing someone here today, our current services, acknowledge that we have previously is being scheduled. While they will present this evening, but platform meetings on that. I know there may be some questions that Education arena, or capitalism. I'm going back, but maybe for the fun, if they have that question. You guys can repeat the question.
Okay. I'm trying. Okay, here we go. Well, it's your time to shine. Okay, no, it's a good idea. Yeah, yeah.
I'm calling Virginia. I prepared something, but I'm gonna speak about something from the presentation, so going a little off script. I am grateful that we're having this meeting, grateful to hear that the district is realizing the need for a third party. I do have some concern about the percent and typing that both engaging in that I want to speak to. Before that, I just want to share some concerns that I brought up last year. That a number of everyone knows, the Reading League, you haven't heard of them, look them up. They're one of the most trusted, nationally respected organizations in science for its structured literacy. The Reading League is known for transparent evaluations grounded in decades of research. Programs that truly align the science and reading both of that level of scrutiny. Did all of you know that ARC refused to be reviewed on its alignment to structured literacy by the Reading League in 2023, 2024, and 2025? The majority of the programs on Give from Connecticut all are reviewed. The Reading League focuses on what actually helps children learn to read, explosive instructions, systematic foundational skills, evidence-based practices that can go on. So when a program refuses independent review, the question becomes simple: why? Families deserve transparency, they deserve instruction grounded in evidence. Last year, at the PTA meeting, I brought up a rubric that the Reading League uses, and I encouraged the district to use that rubric to evaluate the program. So I'm assuming that was not done. Looking at the person that they're doing the external review, Rachel, I just want to bring up a few concerns. Is it Rachel? Okay. First of all, she is a UConn professor. I graduated from UConn. I am a remedial reading teacher and a dyslexia specialist. When I attended UConn was entrenched in balanced literacy. So I learned how to teach kids wrong. I teach them how to read wrong. If you have not listened to Solar Story podcast, please listen to it. It will make sense. So looking that she is from UConn is a concern. She also published books at Teachers College. Teachers College is linked to Lucy Hawkins. Lucy Hawkins, they're not linked anymore. However, Lucy Hawkins was banned for instruction from our state, and 80% of school districts, including Old Saybrook, utilize Lucy Hawkins prior to ready legislation. So I just, when I see that the district has chosen this external review, first of all, it feels a little like the opposite of collaboration. I have a professional background, but I feel like this group is beginning to understand structured literacy more and more. I don't see structured literacy on her bio at all, and that is critical. So if you're going to spend more taxpayer dollars, and you have to make sure that you use a credible agency to do just that. Thank you.
Hi, Ilya. I just wanted to refer back to the MTSS framework. I noticed that listening on tier 2 and 3, which specifically is related to more of like the RTI approach and the MTSS framework approach, which starts off with a strong foundation of tier one. And it's more of a proactive approach than a reactive approach. So when we're talking about MTSS framework, we really want to acknowledge how important tier one is and what we're doing in tier one and how our curriculum is aligned, right? Best practices that we're doing during tier one that are helping all students. So instead of being a pathway to students with an IEP, which was OC or RTI, it now is a way to prevent unnecessary IEPs and really look at all the education students and how we can help them. As well as in that 8%, looking at the students, even students that are higher achieving. So I think when we were looking at that slide, it was mainly focused on the tier 2 and 3, but we really want to look at how our curriculum is supporting that tier 1. I don't think that we touched enough upon what we're doing in the school to support tier 1. So I would in the future like to hear a little bit more about your tier 1 best practices, so we can get a better understanding of doing proactive rather than
Thank you. Trina Carey. I just had a question. Reading through Ms. Gabriel's file, thank you for including it. I see she's very accomplished, and does a lot of research, but I don't see anything about her coming in and doing this consulting work. So as a parent, who doesn't have as much knowledge about, balance or structured literacy or all the things, I think it would be really helpful to better understand how much experience she has in that realm. It seems like a different kind of skill set. And I know perhaps, people who do consulting work, it may not be listed on their academic vibe, but I wasn't sure how much experience she has or sort of where students on that spectrum.
I don't want to speak on it. Academic background, but I do know that she has done a lot of this work in other districts. I don't know districts. That's where I think they're coming up with a problem. And like I said, these are questions that severe, that's what she's hoping to start studying possibly next year. She said, so they mentioned this is the rest of UConn, and when it's UConn student by the next week, so she comes more available. Her priority is to try to get her as quickly as possible, so that way I start answering some of these questions, start having some actual tangible things that we can work on getting together. So that was.
Yeah, I thought it's.
What do the teachers actually?
I'm not speaking for every teacher in the district, but over the last week, I did have an opportunity to speak with every mid-building, every grade level, and every teacher. And to be fair, it's kind of mixed. There's some teachers that are really supportive, some teachers who don't like it. It's basically kind of down the middle. I'm being totally transparent. I didn't know what to expect when I had these conversations. I asked. I got some really good things, some concerns. I got some people who particularly like it. I think that just reinforced that maybe we need to bring somebody from outside, come in and say, how is it working for us? And what are some of the things we can do to improve with the end of the day? None of this works if our teachers aren't behind it, and that's sort of the next step of the team process for us too. Not all of things are great. Pretty much done. Anyone?
Actually, that's very. I think it would be valuable if we were looking at our actually talking about the progress, and it was making like in switching scores, but when we're looking at progress, I think it's important to ask parents and families how many of them have sought outside help to support their child's treatment. Because some of that growth is due to that outside.
I guess my question relates to what you just said, so. Oh, I'm sorry, Caitlin, hi Chair. So you had said that, you know, you had gone in and talked to teachers about it. But as a teacher myself, I'll tell you that teachers are most able to express how they feel about something, so that's just what they're doing every day in the district. By communicating with a survey or a way that they can respond in a way where they can really evaluate each piece of the program without fear, I guess, of disappointing the district member that they keep asking in person. So is that something that the district could allow teachers to be able to do in the future or soon?
So the way I left it, of these conversations were normal, hurtful, when we come back next week, when we come back at all, is there a different mechanism to do that? I'm open to it. Until the end. Whatever works best, whatever people are going to be, that's what we're gonna do. And at this point, if it's, so let's say you put it in a different way, we'll do it. But one thing I want to make sure that I was listening to your plan, and say, I spoke with the parents and other people. I asked for our aspect, now that share this, we don't have to be up. Our teachers weren't shy about telling me what happens. I'm extremely confident in saying that if it was good, bad, or different, they were not shy about sharing with me.
Sorry. I'm going back to that slide when they talked about the 3 different decision-making points that they used to choose the program. I noticed that each one, the first one was reading and thinking, and then time and then assessment. One of the reasons why the district was expected to pick a program is for those K-2 foundational reading skills. And when you look at those questions, those key pieces that they were looking for, I don't see a lot of those foundational skills being included in how the program is chosen. And that's part of the concern that some of the parents have, because that's so important. And when some parents were raising the idea of those supportable readers, it's because we can't take meaning and get to that comprehension stuff and that grade 3 and that grade 4 and that all those other things that you were talking about, without being able to actually read and hold the text and begin to make the meaning from that text. Those skills I think are what's most important when we're picking out those skills. And that's why we're looking at those moments on that slide that you had with the last daily. That's really what we were concerned about, making sure that at a lower level, those kids are getting skilled in to be able to perform the aspects of the grade 4.
My name's Karen Dawn. I live in 150 Old Boston, West Parent. I have a question about the third way that we were going to assess the program. That was on that slide that's up twice time. Meeting time and assessment. My concern is about assessments. We have gotten a lot of mixed messages as Goodwin parents this year about what kind of assessment data can be shared. We learned at the beginning of the year that STAR, which is an online benchmark test, would no longer be shared. That was then, I believe, reversed. We are receiving home and as a second grade parent, getting second grade bridges and immunity assessments. I have not received any pre-assessments or post-assessments from Mark. I was told that if I wanted access to those things, I should make a FERPA request, which seems to me to be excessive. And I understand that we, as parents, don't necessarily need to know how our child ranks against other children. I don't think any parent in this room wants to know how their child ranks against other parents. If they're the 5th in the class or the 28th in the class, I don't think parents really care. But we really, really do care
about whether our students are achieving grade level benchmarks in the different components that were on the slide of graded literacy. We want to know how our children are doing on those individual components. And DIBELS information is occasionally shared, but not regularly shared and not in a universal manner actively. As a parent of 2 children who are in different grades group. And there is no information aside from STAR, which is now being released again about anything else. Vocabulary, comprehension, until the kid gets to the end of 3rd grade, takes an S. And that information is released. And as Dr. Fletcher was saying, you know, all these tests test different things. But in our benchmark, choosing a program, assessing a program is how good the assistants are. Then why have I never seen an ARC assessment? Like, it's just baffling to me as a person who teaches at an upper level and assessment. Well, going on with the assessment.
You were going about the whole.
Like, what is like how this is like why have I not really assessment?
So in going back to the question that were on the slide, that wasn't the questions that we're using to measure against this, to measure against the programs.
Look on the slide. What is going on with assessments for literacy? I don't care about this. I'm just gonna ask you a little respectful.
Would you be able to repeat the question? Like, I'm not sure what exactly the question is asking.
How are we assessing students on all of the elements in graded literacy? When are we assessing the students on those elements? And how is that being reported to families?
Right, so there's a lot of that. So a lot of the pieces that we are using are coming out of our university. So our universal data that we're using is either the SAR assessment or DIBELS. DIBELS K-3 is being used, and at any point in time, to see those scores. In terms of the our assessment, I believe there's a system that the school has been using now to send them, and I believe that associate principal Anderson spoke to that around how would you like to receive the reports. And a survey was sent out several times trying to get strong feedback from parents as to how you would like to receive those scores. So that we can be more. So.
One email.
Every time you say that, every time. 3 times, how many? 29 response.
That's different than.
They all.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Coles, I live on Briarwood, we have twins in Greek and. I'll start by saying that we moved to Old Saybrook in 2020 because of the assessments and the outcomes that we read, looking for a town to build a family. Very simply, because of that, Old Saybrook now has a restaurant, a jewelry store, and some other thing on the way, all in this town, because we moved here for the stores. Had we read that in 2020, the latest results we would not be here. It's very black and white. I wanna go to a starting point based on stuff that we went through tonight. How you're framing your arguments or your discussions matters. You're using accountability index, which includes attendance, math, and other factors that were specifically addressing reading comprehension, right? So if the attendance goes up, the score goes up. Let's not use them. Dibbles measures mid-year point. What about the end of the year? Are they actually reaching grade level reading? The overall numbers that I am reading from the American Literacy Panel is students who are not at grade level reading proficiency by the start of third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out before they graduate high school. That's a big deal. We don't grade things based on anything other than results. These numbers are skewed with the slides, the 3 slides in a row that you stated. ELA measures movement towards a goal, not whether or not that goal was in grade level reading proficiency. Again, there's a theme what we're talking about. Early literacy programs are judged by the coding outcomes, kindergarten through grade 2. After 4 years, it takes roughly 1 to 2 years to see if a program is working. It's been longer, and the scores are going down. The National Reading Panel research confirms systematic phonics instruction significantly improves early reading achievement. ARC does not provide a complete systematic phonics sequence. Simply put, teachers were on board during the decision-making time because they could tailor their program too. It was malleable, it wasn't some set in stone thing. It was easy, it was fun. I don't blame teachers. I own a restaurant. If my team fails because I don't give them the tools, I don't blame them. This is a bad tool. The mistake was made when that was chosen. You put up a list of other programs, right? That you had to move through if you got rid of one, right? There's 3 or 4 phonics-based programs on the list. You made a mistake when you chose those. Science says that that's pretty clear. The science of reading is very clear. You picked a specialist to objectively look at this program who has published works stating very clearly that she does not believe any program is better or worse than any other program, and that it's about the teachers and the implementation. At the end of the day, that is not an objective judge of the program. An art and literacy specialist would be an objective judge of the program. So after all this, a mistake was made when this was implemented. It's understandable, things happen. Don't make a second mistake and try to make this work when it is like the ultimate square peg round hole in 2026. Like, we have young kids, we want them to succeed. We want to support them. We don't need to reach outside of our school for school. That's not a good look. That's not a good feeling. That tells us, go to St. John's, go to Madison Day School. Of course, we're all entitled to do that. But again, we moved here for this school. That's it.
And I don't know if we can pull it up or not, but the slide that said what other school districts are using ARC. I'm wondering, what is it about, well, I guess 2-part question. 1, did you look to see what sort of results those school districts were having with ARC? And if so, what about their success or lack thereof with ARC led you to also change it? And the second part would be, if it wasn't their results that you find similar, is there something about those school districts that you think resonated with Sabre that made you think that ARC was a good choice for our district?
I think everyone shows at the same time, and maybe this is really quick.
Basically, what about the,
I think everyone should be at the same time, I don't know if we necessarily have the benefit of someone who's working, I wasn't here for that, but. I want to make sure I'm not.
sure, basically, is there anything about what those other 12, 13 districts that also one farm? Did you look at how they were doing the farm when deciding, yeah, we want to go up too?
It goes to what Superintendent Dudley was saying. We all know about the thing.
How do you, well, you decide to stay with the farm? How they are doing?
So that is something that we can look at.
Okay, well, so you had it, right, is that,
That's what we're looking at, like, I mean. We're about 2 years into this. We're hearing concerns, I'm hearing gentlemen ask support, I'm hearing from teachers that are really supportive, I'm hearing teachers that aren't really supportive. It's not a cut and dry. We're gonna bring someone in here and say, is this working for us? And if it's not, what are all the options that we have? Where do we go?
but notice, so like, you would be outside of it, you'd say, it's one. Numbers go five.
That was one of the most common requests that I have gotten from parents about me.
You know, it's kind of crazy. There are all these other districts that have been doing this, you don't have any data that would be successful with family. That's nuts.
I mean, I don't want to speak for the whole district, so I don't wanna. I know some are having, for ones that I talked to are having.
Where have you seen this? Where have you seen it work?
This particular program, I know one of the districts, they're seeing their scores go up. Like New Britain, that's what I heard. I was there, I don't know, I've heard that, I can have that conversation. I've heard that, I don't want to take it, so through my conversation, how I heard having some stuff that I haven't physically been able to say that. Just to answer the question, I have heard. Whether or not we're at the point where, again, that request to bring somebody else in, came from conversations I had with many people in the room. And I don't think it, I heard that from staff as well. You need to find somebody who's not living it, come in and say whether or not. That's where they want to be. Trying to go.
Just so we're having this conversation, my question to you is, aren't our children's test scores and the very struggles parents have had with this reading program enough of an indication that it is not working?
As we pointed out earlier, the next question is, well, what do we do next? Right? So this one isn't working. What are we gonna, we have to do something about which one are we gonna choose? We have to have a process to do that. That's what we're saying. It's coming, tell us if it's working, what's not working. What that, now that you've seen this, what may work better for us. I started this with, I and their problems. So getting somebody to come in from the outside and say, objectively, it's not working here. These are the other options that are out there that may be better suited. But this starts a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of, not just the staff members of the room, you as parents to find out. This is where we need to go, because at the end of the day, we're all looking for the same thing. I don't think there's a disagreement on that. So that's the first step of this process that I couldn't share until I knew we had it.
Thank you for this forum, appreciate it. Just wanted to say that since we're at a turning point so far, and one of the slides that you shared tonight, based, lots of opportunities we based on feedback, whether it's from teachers or parents. I also work in the education realm, and I know that things are good for any decisions solely based on feedback unless they're backed by scientific data to prove them. Moving forward, I would hope that any decision making could base less on feedback, whether it's from teachers or parents, and more on data. And moving forward, any presentations we see are focused on data. For example, look at districts that are too, because I'm new to this, but I was able to do a deep dive into the programs that were offered, including immediately
recognize that ARC was not the best decision for our district. And I'm not sure that, that was done and how we landed on ARC. It's just looking at the development as a parent.
Well, I guess to bring it back to the beginning, one of the, first options you presented was to get rid of ARC altogether. You said you can't really do that unless we do number 3, which is get an outside evaluation. And I think, the school year's long, but it's really not that long. Time is kind of the essence for these kids. Like, if they're moving on to 3rd grade, they should be able to comprehend these long passages, but they're struggling with basics, they're not gonna get there. Weeks matter, and I think that if we not waste time, but spend a lot of time getting these outside reviews, which I think could be beneficial, we're also kind of utilizing the time that we could be moving on to something better.
I'm Casey Barrett. A lot of this presentation, I think, was hard for parents to listen to. I know what it's for me. It was hard to listen to the accountability in that when my children are struggling. It was hard to listen to the part about engagement, if they were just engaged more. Because if your children have a reading disability or if they're dyslexic, it's not about if they're engaged. Because they can't decode, so you can't be engaged if you can't decode. So it was hard listening to some of these things. And I think parents have been talking about for a long time. I'm new to this. I'm 2 months in. I thought, as I spoke to other parents who have been doing this for a year, they said, don't worry, I'll talk to them. I'm a therapist, yoga teacher, and I know how to talk to people, and I'm gonna talk to them, and something's gonna change. And here I am, 2 months in. And here we all are, and everyone's speaking, and it just seems like more of the same thing. We're told we have to get this review. Our kids' struggles are enough. The data is there. We're paying for tutoring. I don't know how many parents are paying for tutors or looking into tutoring. We have to change that. My kids are part of the pilot. I have no data on that. They're an experiment. My kids are part of the ARC experiment. And I have no data about that, and I wasn't asked about it. And I didn't have any access to the DIBELS score. I didn't know about that. And looking back on their DIBELS scores makes me want to cry. But at the time, I didn't have that. And Matt and Stacy weren't here. Okay, and this isn't about blaming anyone, and it isn't about blaming teachers, because we do love our teachers very much. We do, and it is not their fault. And I would like a promise from the board that there will be no retaliation against teachers who speak their truth. Because I do believe that teachers may be fearful of really speaking up. I think they need an anonymous survey. They do, they think we need an anonymous survey. I would like the board to have, I think it's correct, CRAC or some other agency commit to that tonight, because I don't think parents are happy with that choice. Who you all chose, we need to be a part of that. In your slide, Dr. Fletcher, you didn't put East Lyme in the dirt. East Lyme's in our dirt, and they're at 74%. And they use bookworms, geodes, integrity, if I'm correct. I may not be correct, just gonna fact check it. East Lyme, same good, 74%. I hope this isn't the one and done monthly meeting. I think we need to do this every month. I think we need to be sitting somehow all together every single month, and families, need to be able to speak. I also want to address that we are still using Lucy Calkins in grade 4 and grade 5 in the curriculum. Lucy Calkins is illegal to use in K through 3, it is not illegal to use in 4 and 5, we are using it in Old Saybrook. Why are we using Lucy Calkins in grade 4 and 5 curriculum? Okay, so I found that on the curriculum website, so if it's outdated, please try it. We have $1.7 million in our budget right now. Right now, it's floating around that we can use to put more teachers in this school, more support staff, and fund book works, which is actually a nonprofit organization and much less expensive. Our district spends 4% less on special education funding than the state average. And at Goodwin, our high needs kids are 36.3%. I'm not sure how many of them are special needs, but I know the high needs is 36.3%. So where's the money for our special ed kids? So we can close that gap. I've been told that the process to obtain SARS bills has recently changed, and that teachers are no longer able to send this out. And I would like that addressed too. Thank you very much.
I have a concern and I'm gonna drive. Those scores on Excite for the last third year, last third year. Oh my gosh. Last year's third graders, so this year's fourth graders, we're at 55% literacy rate. Because your literacy rate was at 55% last year for them, and in no dibbles have been done for this year for that entire period to see where they are. If you say that teachers are able to grasp where you're going, where the district is going, then why is the dibbles completed, shared with families, and increased? That removes the connection that we used to have with classroom teachers, and I am a classroom teacher, but not in this district. I am one in this line, where they are doing the right thing right now. As our right question before, as teachers have reservations. We asked every fourth grade student to have dibbles done, and for that information to be shared directly with the parents. Will the school commit to doing a full dibbles assessment for every fourth grader in this school and share it with the parents without the parents being asked? And parents have been asking for data, and data have not been given to them. So I have to ask, when you look at data and the increase that you see, and if you move the 35% of students that are going to grow in their reading, no matter how they learn, and then you ask the leftovers, how many of you are paying for outside services in PA? And then look at the actual increase that is occurring within the buildings. And then another point, those SBAC questions that were up on there for the third grade, I can tell you firsthand that they are being sent home for homework for your child to practice and how to use them. Because I did it. They have to.
I am just wondering around system structures. Because we are talking about if we change the curriculum, whether we have art or we don't have art. I'm wondering is how are we measuring the metrics of the effectiveness of the curriculum? What is already being done in the school? Is there data analysis? I know we're only in year 2, but usually there is like a curriculum analysis over 3 to 5 years. So we're coming up on maybe 3 years. What is the action plan for that? How will we be able to see that data analysis and see if there are curriculum gaps? And one of the emails that was sent home that said tonight would be also about like how we're supplementing for the curriculum. So that's where my wondering lays, whether it's art or another curriculum, what would that action plan look like? So we can ensure that any curriculum is being implemented with fidelity. And then going off of hiring Rachel, Gabrielle, I'm wondering is. Are we putting all our eggs in one basket? Or is there something that has already been done by the school that we can look at to see the effectiveness of the curriculum? If there has not been, my wondering is why. Yeah. How to evaluate the effectiveness of any curriculum here.
I couldn't hear pointing around well. One of the questions was the effectiveness of evaluating all of our curriculum across the board. And that's not just happening necessarily here, but that has to happen district. And that's a combination of some things I referenced today. We know how we're getting them. We also know the people we're teaching. How are they, what are they seeing? We're hearing from families, just as though.
Like a specific data.
And analyze a specific curriculum.
Yeah, like deep diving that data and finding gaps, opinions of people implementing. How do we ensure that there's fidelity with the factor? Through data.
You know better than I. I don't want to.
So a lot of the things that we, some of the previous, one in terms of fidelity.
Sorry, I can't really understand what you're saying.
In trying to, is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. In trying to gain some of that information specific that we are talking about some of the things that Associate Principal Anderson mentioned inside the purpose. Going on walk. We're also trying to have deeper dives inside of our inside of some of our assessment to see how well it's doing. Now, in terms of the literacy programming, this is the next step. We are at a point in time where we're newly out of year zero. Year zero was a year after test group came in. It said, yes, we should continue moving forward with things. Then all of our teachers did it, and then we had some structure that changed inside of our program. So we're in a true year one this school year. And from our community view, and due to the work that Superintendent Bradley went on, we heard feedback, and as part of that, that's why Dr. David was coming in to help us analyze it we have in order to make the decision.
So these are not my questions. I've got questions from people online. Do we want to do that now or do we want to? Okay. So we can maybe mix it up because I have several. So the first question comes from Kate McHugh. It says, as a parent of 3 children in the district, I've seen very different reading outcomes depending on instructional approach. My middle child, who was part of the ARC pilot in kindergarten, has struggled significantly with reading and was previously identified as needing immediate intervention. However, since the district stopped sending assessment data home, I no longer have a way to track his progress or understand how far behind he is compared to grade level expectations or even his own growth over time. Given that transparency is essential for families to support their children, how does the district plan to provide parents with clear, consistent access to reading assessment data and benchmarks? Additionally, what criteria are being used to determine eligibility for reading intervention services? And how is the district ensuring that students who are clearly struggling but may not meet a strict cutoff still receive timely support? Do we keep going or? Yeah, most of my questions are on the longer side, on a bit of a narrative, but. I am logging all the names and keeping all the comments and questions that we don't get to.
I think those are ongoing conversations, right? Everyone's talking about assessment. Need to know more about our kids, and that's been a push from us as leaders of this building, that we want to give you that information. We need your feedback, right? We have some in-house things, but there needs to be a mechanism for us to make sure we're clearly communicating with one another. When we send a STAR report home, how valuable is that to you as a parent to get a bar that puts your child in green, red, or yellow?
More
valuable.
valuable, better than nothing. Yes, better than
Okay. So we want to make sure we're partnering with you so that you understand the information. So you can make informed decisions, so that we can work together, to create plans to support children. So 100% agree, we need more data, we need to share more information, right? And we need to come back with, I think that was part of Associate Principal Anderson's slide, is that we agree, and we're working on that right now, that's part of our plan.
I have a lot more, but.
We'll go back.
Okay, yeah.
Casey, there again. During the phone conversation we had, you told me, I asked, who has the power and control to send out stars and dimples? Who can do that? You said you would talk to Matt, that was April 9th, I think, if I recall correctly. You said, you guys have the power to do it, can you please just do it, we're asking you to do it. Send out the stars and dimples, why is that hard to send out the stars and dimples? Why can't, like, do you hear us? We would like the stars and dimples, please, all the parents want the stars and dimples, please send us home the stars and dimples. Can you commit to that, please? Can we say yeah? What? This is like, how many parents need to scream, we want the stars and dimples? How many times do we have to ask?
More information to share.
So whose decision is it?
I know, I like this.
And it's really a hard, you can't commit to it now to send home stars and dimples for our kids?
Sorry, to yell it out, but also like if the concern is getting that kind of thing, oh, my not understanding. One of the solutions to that is at fall and spring conferences, if there were spring conferences, being able to have teachers explain what that information is. Maybe don't just send it from the mail, but maybe have teachers explain, these are the assessments we get, this is what the child is doing. Yes, they're below benchmark, but this is what their goals are, we're providing them this intervention. That's what conferences are supposed to be for, but unfortunately, we only have a fall conference and no spring. And then when parents are asking, well, why does the rest of the state have fall and spring conferences, we're told that, well, back to school night counts. That doesn't count towards the conference, that's not giving them information about my individual child. So having those conferences allows teachers to get that information about just sending it home and parents misreading what's happening or not understanding the support their child actually getting. And then not them like all those questions and wondering how to reach out to the teacher separately and say, what does this mean? Why are they in the red? I don't understand, they're below. I don't suggest that, but what I do suggest is allowing teachers to explain it to them. Because like being a teacher myself, I know that helps my parents understand the information again, that constant communication. I think what I'm hearing here is that most parents aren't getting the communication. Some parents that I talk to don't even know that their child's receiving some of that support or that they're below benchmark until they find out that they can ask for that information, and then they finally get it, they're like, wait, what? What's happening? And they don't know, or they don't work in the school, so they don't even know if their kids are getting fall, winter, spring, progress monitoring, any of those. But I think all of that could be solved by allowing the teachers to give parents more information about that, so we can build understanding and that communication they got.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that part, it was a rather recent conversation that I had to think right. With regards to things that I said, and the question to the impact on parents who may like something, and there are some parents that I don't know what they need. And I think there was some frustration for teachers as well, because that mechanism to have exactly what we recommended didn't exist. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. That's kind of where I get to that earlier, the conversation I had with people. They would need to refocus how we do all this here, and they want to be part of it, at least the ones that I spoke, I can speak for them. But in that same arena, if I have a mechanism to share the data with my families, but explain what they're looking at, that may help some of the confusion. But that's the things that Matt and Stacy mentioned earlier, that we're trying to build out mechanisms to get to that point as we speak. That is actually conversations that I've had in the last 48 hours. There's way too good. Point for and better backgrounds. But I don't disagree with that, and I think that's where some of maybe the frustration comes from. We can correct from the perspective and from the staff perspective of we're sending something home, parents are calling us. We need a better way to explain what we're getting, and sometimes that just having people come in and say, this is what it means, this is what we're gonna get, and then reach out to you if we want to have a more conversation. So I don't disagree with what you said, and gentlemen, continue.
Yeah, I spoke a lot, I have a question, there's nothing was answered, this person you picked, you had a slide, you passed out a sheet, has she already been selected, is this the person who's gonna do the objective view, because she is very clearly not an objective person when she states no program is superior to any other program. So she can't possibly look at the scientific reading, which is out there to the rest of the scientific reading community.
Thank you.
Really not, this is the objective, but this is the first one.
But the parents disagree though, so can we not, be collaborative?
Public state, curriculum choice matters less than implementation, no literacy program is better than any other. How is that somebody to evaluate?
I think it's more about structured systems, going back to like what is an action plan, we just analyze any different. So we'll see like the action plan for what that is, when we look at just other curriculum, but not the actual future, right?
She's going to be, when we ask for the objective opinion based on what we heard of. My first conversation was, did someone come in and say, how are we doing? Because I'm hearing from all our stakeholders what results are, is this working for us? I'm in the state bodies that don't want. But that, you're hearing from the stakeholders that we don't want.
We don't want her.
I don't I'm not calling for a budget, I'm not saying this.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to thank you for all the sharing. I'm learning a lot as a board member. That was your experiences, and I appreciate that. I want to say something about the conversation that's going on right now, and I've been to the state not only as a member of the board again, but as a person with a lifelong career as a special educator, a teacher educator, and elementary school principal. You can't really separate curriculum and instruction and approach. They all go together. Right, so you can, one of the things we haven't talked about that much tonight is the structured approach to teaching reading, which is a very important component of what we need to focus on. So, a curriculum does not teach children to read, a teacher teaches children to read. So you can have a curriculum, but if that teacher cannot teach with a structured approach to teaching reading, that curriculum is not going to be successful. So we've got to kind of put all those pieces together, and we need to look at all three of those pieces to see what is best for our kids. The curriculum may be something that we want to change, but I think it's just as important that we look at making sure that our teachers have the professional development, the coaching and mentoring, and the resources that they need to teach reading using a structured approach, so that they can be successful in the long run. So, talk about our budget and, have a limited resource to be thoughtful about how we use them. As a board member, I would just want to make sure that we are spending some of our dollars on making sure that our teachers are knowledgeable and skilled at teaching reading well.
But this whole board meeting is about the programs. If they are teaching it properly and they have a better programs, the students will learn better. And science states very clearly, phonics produces better results.
And that's part of the structured approach. Yes.
But are not phonics entrance?
So I have another question from online, this one's coming from Katie Toolin. I want to address what was presented under budget uncertainty. Saying that you can't make changes to a reading program that is clearly not working for many of our children unless the budget passes. Feels like uncertainty and more like a subtle attempt to pressure this community. Our children's education shouldn't be used as leverage in a budget discussion. If a program needs to be fixed, it should be addressed because it's the right thing to do, not because of how a vote turns out.
If I wasn't clear, I apologize. My statement in regards to financing is if we currently, as it stands today, have dollars allocated to go toward this goal. If that changes, then the decision has to be made of where we don't have the same allocation pool. Where are we gonna redirect those funds in from where? I don't have that information. I don't know what the end result. That was why I had to stop short of saying, recommendation comes back and says, get rid of it. When we have to buy something else, I have to make sure I do that, but it's important. Those things that I do. And again, this is not advocating or it's very clear on that. One of the things that the board has the ability to is once the allocation is made, they have the ability to redirect funds within that allocation by a transfer based on need. So at least in my experience here, if we had to go to the board and say we had X amount of dollars and we need X more for something else, we make that process change. I can't speak for the nine of them, but they have never said it. But as it stands right now, committing to buying something new without knowing how much is there, something I just can't do. That was what my state was going to be uncertain.
How do we know what will be done?
1 second, I want
I'm just wondering if development considered to evaluation program and what schools have used this Rachel person and what they're finding.
For this particular, I think we should focus throughout the stage on this, was, already allocated to that. But I know she has consulted in numerous districts and compensated that. Those of that I work with, they could be different for these problems. That may not necessarily work kind of in a unique situation where we have this bigger focus on this program and then the implementation, selection, all of it. We come in and say, how is this working for us structurally? Are we on the right path? And if the answer is no, then you help us guide us to where we need. So I don't know specifically. I without having a private conversation with other districts, I'm not sharing their information, but I would ask this to be a relationship. Anyone that are alive consideration that somebody that's out there. With me, I can.
And that you
can share with you all different.
With this, person that's doing the assessment, what written with the letters, this UConn professor, are you saying whatever their role is, if they say state of course, you're gonna stay of course?
Clearly something needs to be done. Because obviously we couldn't be here tonight, that everything was going great. I just don't want to speak on behalf of information I don't have. I can assure you that the concerns I'm listening to, I'm listening for myself, because one of the concerns was we wanted to have this opportunity to have this conversation. We're here. I don't know what the results of this are. If the results are, we don't need to change everything, that's their opinion. But then we have to sit down and have a conversation on, okay, but there is a population within our community who is unhappy with this. I'm considering everything. I just need to get the, and as far as spending a question earlier about timing. The timing is of this, I believe. Which is why getting her here as quickly as possible to do her work, get the information to it, so we can present and have them, and this is the course that we would take, or at least start having those conversations. That's what this is about. I am not making a commitment to saying everything's gonna stay the same, or well, until we have that information, but the answer is change everything. Change it. Or at least start a mechanism to do it. If the answer is you don't need to change anything, clearly we have some talking to do about how we move forward, because there's a lot of people who are unhappy with the way.
You're not convinced that it's problematic.
No, I wouldn't be here.
You did a whole presentation and trying to sell us something.
I'm trying to sell you,
The goal was to reassure parents that all was well. We saw a presentation.
is that what I mean?
Which is fine, but then, but like, I don't get the sense that you're concerned, that, and not just address you directly, I don't get the sense that the board and the district are concerned. And that we think our concerns.
We would not be here, we would not be taking a night from a regular board meeting to meet with all of you, that was very intentional, I guess, to come. Certainly hear your concerns, we certainly were listening, hear your frustration. To insinuate that we don't care is just.
But it's been a very one-sided conversation, not like other questions.
And I do not get the sense that for itself you on part.
I didn't say that, I said.
I said.
Not. We're still leaving here with a lot of the questions, unanswered. We still.
We'll provide the information.
That's what the next. Or.
We're diligently taking notes on your questions and concerns. You know, so some of this.
We have to wait about a month.
No. Yes. I truly appreciate your concerns. My comment is that this is a mandate from the state. And I think that we were told to select one of 6 programs. So there is theoretically trust that these 6 programs that they're saying we must implement are effective. I would hope that if these programs are in fact flawed, that the governor and the legislatures get some feedback on why are you mandating programs that are not effective. And I think that there's a lot of tension here, which is appropriate, but let's recognize we didn't say let's pick art because we think that's awesome. We had to select one of 6. And I don't know how those 6 were selected or why they were recommended, but I think some of this needs to go back to the state level and say, you're telling us to implement programs that may be flawed, right? I hope that this investigation does, the assessment does, bring out what aspect of it is or is not working, but it's not just school safer administration and board that are responsible for this. This goes to the state and the legislators that are mandating this.
Somebody up first. Does anybody else?
I have a bunch. Okay.
Oh, thank you. That was a really good point because it is an area of frustration with those new teachers of how it was approved. It is something that we are exploring. It's a pretty big thing to explore. But I encourage this, and I encouraged them last year as well to explore it. I think the district is off the hook though, because we have other programs to choose from. And I said a couple years ago in 2023, I know it was a state mandate, but your choice shows knowledge gap. And teachers need to be trained, because if, or educators need to be trained, administrators need to be trained, because if there was a solid training structure that received, district would have not chosen it.
Comment about Carrie on your representation, that is, if all your slides, you seem to have focused a lot on the growth rate. And I think that's one component of it, that's a very dangerous to focus on. I'll give you an example. Our goal is basically make every student hit standard, will be at 100%. At that point, our growth rate would be 0. Right, and so that's so in comparison to our growth rate of the place. And we're showing high growth rate, it's not a good sign.
Question. As far as, I know you said she might start next week. Is there a competition? A date for pipeline to later?
It's possible, outside from the. With the hope of it to. Honestly, me or her behalf, we'll walk in it, but. You can find out over years, a lot of the things that you're asking us to do, we saw it at the time that we lost them. So that's my intention going into this. That timeline, but it's something that's been controlled, that was the mindset of it. Try to get in as soon as possible, so that we get the information, and start playing.
Thank you. Mike Paradise. Couple of quick questions. When we first looked at the ER program, what due diligence is actually done for vetting, other than taking their word for it that they're doing a great job? Because if you do a quick search online, you can find a lot of questionable information about the program, especially tied to the science of reading, showing that outsiders or independent parties suggest that maybe they're not as honest with their advertising as they're suggesting. So I would hope that other than just taking a packet during an RFI process or an RFP process and looking at it to see what they did, that we did some internal digging as well into that. I know most of the people here had nothing to do with that part of the process, because there's been a lot of turnover since then. I would just hope that if we don't know how we got to that point, that won't be repeated if we change programs. And then related to that, when the pilot study was done, it said that it was 10 classrooms selected for the pilot of the art program. I'm very curious to know how representative that 10 selected classrooms, how representative they were, both of the students in the classroom, but also the teachers engaging in that. If these are self-selected, if they're the ones volunteering for that, we're gonna have a major issue. That's something they probably want to push for one reason or another, as opposed to just hitting the gambling. You might have teachers who've been doing it here for a long time the same way, and not wanting to switch, as opposed to teachers that are interested in switching or capable of switching. We love our teachers, but we know there's different capabilities in every classroom, so I'm really interested to know how representative overall those pilots were, so that we can say, yeah, this really meshes with what our actual school district.
Anybody know how that can be done?
Good.
So I do my best to speak out about a lot of the leaders who were in the room during the time are no longer. I was in the room at the time. It was representative. We did not cherry pick or select specific students who were going to experience the program. It was a blind selection between all of our grade levels in the school. To be as accurate as we can to see how well this program works, but that's what we want to test. We're testing to see what, but also is providing some, or we were leaning on the faith that state didn't select damaging programs. So that was part of the thought process, knowing that these were programs that were selected and we did all of them for what they were.
And the second part of the question was, what's embedded housing?
If I go to an out, or if I go to Subaru and buy a car from them, the air conditioners, or if they deal with the representative of that company. If we don't feel that our business meeting the needs of all savers, educational needs. Have we made any discussions with them to say, you know, we're seeing these kinds of results? What exactly would you do to tailor the art program to better suit our needs? And maybe not come out of the forest of the trees, what can we do to take it that situation if we figure that one? And make it better, you know, what is it about the art program that provides some feedback and dialogue with potential material to make sure that their program is gonna be the right thing for us going forward if we can make changes.
And yeah, so we have an ongoing relationship, with the representative, so we can have continued conversations with them. If we were to give recommendation, favorable, saying that we were tweaks or changes, we need to have that conversation with them, to see how best.
So this is a question from Kate McHugh. Regarding the district's proposed format for communicating student reading progress, I understand a survey was used to gather parent feedback, but only 29 responses were collected. Given how important this issue is to families, does the district plan to resend or more broadly distribute the survey with clear communication that it is intended to gather comprehensive parent feedback, not just a small sample? I was initially confused that it was intended to collect data until another parent pointed it out. How will the district ensure that the communication format ultimately reflects input from a representative portion of families?
I think I said that the amount of time we sent out, possibly got 29 responses. But we're gonna look at how we will to communicate. Then just kind of close it out and have conversations that we're not getting feedback that we're asking for. Maybe it's time to ask them. I don't know, maybe give people a question about more broadly. I think this was specific for the diversity of this building and maybe the district level. Again, we certainly look for the way that we're seeing things out. The response rate is, we don't plan anything out, I mean.
I don't know who was first.
It's getting will the district commit to a monthly open forum of parents in some way? Because this is an ongoing conversation. If we can't keep on going through emails and having 3 minutes to speak and, you know, like, we need something more. Will you please commit to sending the STARS bills home again? And will you please show a collaborative spirit now, this moment? And show that you heard us by action. So we all told you we don't want Rachel Gabriel. I think people have said that. We want to be a part of whoever is going to do it. We want to vote on it and we want to be a part of that. We do not want Rachel Gabriel. Please do not hire her. We would like to be a part of choosing whoever you guys choose. We want it to be collaborative. And if you truly want to be collaborative, you will let teachers and parents be a part of that process. Thank you.
Thanks so much, I agree. So my question actually, from my understanding, is that the Saybrook actually had good scores initially. And then the state came down with programs. So the district chose the program, and my question is, the program that they chose seemed to be art. What was the study that was done to determine that that program would be best for whatever you were continuing to use? We didn't have to abandon what we were doing. We just had to be able, from my understanding, is to be able to create a curriculum and have supplements. What might be the areas that we chose that to be able to see if in fact the children were doing better? I'm an educator, so that's a very practical question to ask.
Thank you, I think it has to be added there, that both permanent and using or on. Not necessarily picking this one, but
I just wanted to say, not, that's what you said, so. I love that. I think that what you're saying about, we had to abandon it to be art, but there are other districts that use programs that you are already using, like foundations, that help with explicit fund structure, which is what we are looking for students. With art, in order to help, bridge the gap, I guess, as to what art is lacking. And that might not be perfect, but it will be better than just saying, well, we have to abandon all that to use art. Because the phonics piece of art is not sight reading, or it's not what we want our students using. But we already have the resources for foundations, I think, right? And when teachers are already trained that, so they should be able to use it to help support their students. And my understanding overwhelmingly is that they're told not to use programs like that to support students because we need it to part. So I think that best practice would say we should have in it everything. We should consider reusing things we have. And the state never said that they should go further. That was for it's never been widely discredited, much like Lucy Clark's and other programs that were being used previously.
you bring an interesting point that this is an opportunity to do having those conversations with you. I would say, if we had something else to supplement, or, maybe something else, or this is the chance for us to have those, this independent things, and just, we're not just talking to me or whatever, but we're talking to the people here. And getting the opinions of your teachers from the ground, that part of what this is, I will speak to the people on the ground. They're not getting anything out of me. There's nothing I can contribute to this conversation on. It's in that way, but that's what this process. We'll talk to us, share with every teacher, this is also your opportunity to be honest. Say, this is the things that you may need, the things that you may not. I don't care, I just want to get this. And I understand there's a lot of opinions of what we should do to fix it now. I'm not saying I'm the person in it. Going through this process is what
Hi, my name is Katie Walker Taylor, and I live on Briarwood Drive. Our sons are okay. My mom is a reading specialist. She's retired now, so you can imagine how important reading is to my family. Growing up as a child teacher, a reading specialist. We did choose this town with expectations that our kids would get off on the right foot for the basic foundation of math and reading. And I just wanted to know if there was a reading specialist that helped choose the art program initially. I know that a lot of people here on the board or here in the school system during this choice, but I just wanted to know if there's a specialist like validating the program, because a specialist included in choosing it. You believe or you know?
I know there
There were two?
there's two reading specialists here, they were also included in the silent group that had the opportunity to evaluate.
Throughout the entire process or at the end?
What reading specialists were those? What were their names?
I don't think we're naming teachers in the building.
Okay, I'm just wanted to know what. Yeah, are the two that were here? I know that there was that taking on the policy. I'm just curious, you know, because I could buy things back for opinion, I just wanted to know if maybe there was someone else who could also ask to come in and advise the thing also.
The Karen and I are our own special. Yeah, we should. That's an honest question. I honestly don't know.
I just wanted to ask you, I know that the specialists could be helpful in evaluating, but it just seems like the numbers of the test scores and the feedback and all of these parents here that are worried about their kids truly being able to read and excel in their first years in school. Are they not enough to be able to make changes? How long do we have to wait that our kids are going to be experiments in a program that is obviously not working by these low test scores? These schools that you put up here, 11 of them, New Britain. Are we really picking a reading program based on what the school system in New Britain is using? I mean, why are we not looking at East Lyme, Madison, Essex, Old Lyme, where their scores are in the 80th percentile, 70th percentile? They're using integrity, foundations, all structured literacy programs, and their kids are doing very well. Why are this seems honestly quite progressed, like I just feel like it's the information is there, why prolong this, why spend more tax money when we're putting a summer program, we're putting help for these kids, and these parents are having to pay out of pocket. The parents work hard, like it's hard to work a full-time job, keep up with what your kids are doing in school, make sure that they're learning fundamental things that they should be able to learn at right in elementary school. It shouldn't be so hard for our kids to be able to get to a basic level of reading and math. You know, this is a wealthy town. I grew up in East Lyme, and when I grew up there, it wasn't a wealthy town. And a lot of the parents, a lot of the advisor families moved into town and cared about education. And they were young families, they got on board of education and they fought for their kids. And everything in that town still this day is about the kids, the sports programs, all the academics. It makes me sad to live here and see that it's so hard for us to even get a new playground for our children. And I don't know, it makes me feel very sad. I think that it's nice that you have this meeting, but I just feel like it's belonging something that is not working. It doesn't seem logical.
Good.
Yeah.
This is a comment online from Maureen Ruby. How are parents informed of their students' progress and teachers' concerns? How are students' progress monitored? Why are BOY, MOY, and EOY DIBELS reports not sent home to parents? Why are students who are not at benchmark on the screeners progress monitored as stipulated in state RTI and MTSS published guidance?
I think it goes back to what you said, right, Casey, that we agree, we need more data. We need to share more information. As a community, you need to know how your kids are doing. We agree. We want to make sure that we have a process in place to communicate that information. right? I agree, I think Stacy and I are committed to sharing scores, to giving you the data that you need, right? Beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year benchmark assessments, ongoing formative assessment. The more that you know, the better you can help your child, simple. Right? We're all here today because we care about kids. This is a community that's always cared about kids, this is a strong community. We need to bond together, we need to move forward, and we need to find a path through this. That's what we're committed to. I realize that we're an open movement. I answer questions all day from everybody in this community, because I care. That's my job. Come here every day because Stacy and I are committed to all of you in this room. So I hope when we leave here tonight, we can find a path through this together. We work for our students' best interest. We work together as a team because none of this is gonna happen if we have this battle back and forth conversation. We need to unite, we need to move forward together.
Did we pick the independent assessor together?
Thank you, I know you mentioned the surveys that I had before and not many people responded, but I'm gonna go back to my friend Karen's point earlier. I'm wondering, those forms that you sent home us to look at, were they tied to specific assessments that teachers are getting in the classroom related to those standards that, you know what I mean? So she was asking like, what assessments are teachers getting? Is it only observation? They're able to do this, or are there specific standards? Because I think if parents knew that those things were based on tests about understanding the curriculum and some sort of outcome, then they might better understand like what was going on. And I think looking at it as an educator, I saw it where it's like, oh, standards. And for me, I didn't tie it to anything because we heard about any assessments related to art. But the standards that were sent seemed like they were related to art. So I think there was sort of a disconnect, and I'm thinking that. So I'm thinking that too, we really felt like we could respond, but we didn't know enough as to whether or not those were actually going to give them the information they wanted to know, which like the dividends or for 7-star. That makes sense. So I know you didn't get a lot of responses. I responded, but maybe you would get more if they understood those things. Because I think assessments really give the parents understanding, but also like we as their other jobs and things that sort of.
Okay.
Hi, Casey. I'm just wondering, with this third-party assessment, I'm trying to understand, I think we've heard a lot tonight from parents that we would like sort of some concrete information for us to digest. I'm not an educator, so I rely on you all to tell me like how my child was doing. So with the third-party assessment, is it going to be more observational and subjective, even if it's subjective professional opinion? Or is it more data analysis, looking at scores and specific outcomes and then comparing them with other communities, other high achieving communities to see kind of how we go? Because I think that makes a difference. I don't think we, at least from what I'm hearing from other people, I don't think we feel like we want to or need to sort of prolong the general abstract conversation.
I think every time we. One of the things that I heard loud and clear, and this is not just from you, this is not. Is. And I think it was mentioned out there about times that. Implementation didn't go the way they want. And people are starting to get a little bit more comfortable with it. Before we go any further, how does this go? We know what the scores are, we know what you did, some really valuable that, but also with the practice. I think that you want to here. Comfort level of where our staff is, what are we giving our staff the necessary resources
to support them in order to implement this. There could be some that say, I need X and Y, 'cause I'm not seeing that. So looking at it comprehensively, as quickly as possible, tell us, okay, based on what we already know, we have that information. But I don't want that to say, do we need to continue down this path, and do we need to stop and go somewhere? That's kind of where I am. Before we go any further, we talk about how to invest in it, heard all the concern for having control. No one's bigger than deal than saying this is staying forever, okay? But before we make that decision, we need to have someone come in and assess the things that we have, turn it all over and say, give us your honest assessment on where we are, what we can do, including the components that we talk. Didn't start yet, so that's why I'm thinking, just having those conversations about what it is that he's going to come in and do and say, but a lot of that is scheduled to having those conversations with people on the ground. And in this back. So, I'm sorry.
Pre-K three as well. As a former educator of secondary ed, so this is a little important to me in the sense of I have to receive the students already on my APs and things like that, and something as well. But regarding the Great with Gabriel, I am hesitant and has I feel like all of us probably are in having it be like a show. Like I don't know if she comes with like a team of 10 people who also research with her. And I second the people who have said that they feel comfortable with the fact that it's just been piece of information that's just been given to us and she's coming next week. I feel as though this is you know, somebody of this caliber wasn't like this call last week and this is not just suddenly on her schedule, especially for she professor and all the other things I'm sure she's got her hands in. My understanding, just based on that, is that this has probably been an ongoing conversation with her for quite a while. So I'm curious as to why this has not been something that we knew about previously, like a month or two ago, whenever the conversation started. And I also just want to clearly understand why parents are not involved in this selection. You know, I was at schools when the ASK was coming to visit, you know, and that was a team of people who were then accrediting the school and the conversation was collaborative effort. I personally just do not think that it is a good choice to place all eggs in one basket, especially if you're saying this is kind of gonna be the tipping point. You know, whether or not we're gonna keep this or not, essentially is what you're saying. I am personally a parent who's paying for outside services for my child for reading. She is completely been swallowed. I don't know if it's because of our completely or not. I can't really say that. One, because I don't think any of us have enough data to prove that. Two, like in second grade, we're still early on in education, but I just think it's one, I guess my concern is why is this just being brought to our attention now? And why was this not a consideration to involve parents and the entire community saying like this is something that we're considering in order to either move forward or pause our program. You know, we need to have a third party involved in making that decision. I'm sure all of us parents like sunscreen, you look up to, you know, see if it's safe for your kids' skin. You know, if you're gonna order vitamins online, you look to see if it's third party tested. So just curious as to why you're speaking one and only one person to be the third party vet for this program that's essentially making or breaking our kids' foundation.
There's one that I'm going for months, but come out. Contact the person without hearing. Okay, I'm going to be with you. I have a conversation for the whole year. And I'm just going to try to come up with something. To be honest with you, that's, I was asked. I'm just a whole parent, so can you get somebody else in here and look at what we're doing? Yeah, that's what it says. And then they would find someone that can work in other districts, because I can form a substance to the person back up. But if every conversation that I had gone down with somebody who's other organizations, this might be the best person that's suited with that criteria.
Thanks, if I might make a suggestion, the last time town had to engage an outside expert to make a big decision like this was the first time. And that went through a joint choice of choosing Perth, went through the board of police commissioners and the board of selectmen, and I believe there was a select committee on the police commission to choose a value. But it was done very deliberately because it was a big impact in town and had a lot of, hot button issues to it. That might be something that we want to consider in terms of moving forward, is taking a look at how Perth was selected and what they did, because I think that the majority of the town is quite satisfied. And with the process of the outcome, so look, that's not to say that Rachel Gabriel may not be qualified to do this. In full disclosure, I've known Rachel Gabriel for a number of years, I know her to be a person of very high character. I don't know whether or not she's the person we want for this job, but the process that we choose, we have sort of a model in place for how we choose an evaluator of how we'll do things. And I think that might be something that we might want to.
Yeah, it's funny that.
All right, this is another online comment from Rachel Sierra. Is there a way that you can make the feedback you propose to parents that got minimal response, less subjective and anecdotal, so that it better benchmarks our children's progress and performance? Yes. So is there a way that you can make the feedback you propose to parents that got minimal responses, less subjective and anecdotal, so that it better benchmarks our children's progress and performance? And again, that came from Richard Sierra.
Assuming that's right, or
And I mean, just full transparency too, I'm asking these questions in the order that I'm receiving them. So I know that Matt kind of touched on that, Casey both touched on that a bit.
I want to make it out.
I think that is, it sounds like they're kind of getting at this similar question that's been asked.
Yeah.
At least a dozen, probably more. 30, sorry. Oh. 30. But that number has fluctuated over the course of the night.
Do we know how many at total, like
Logged into this Zoom is 30. I think it peaked around 35, roughly.
So are there, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Are there any that are similar or you do? These, it's not, we will have to just.
It's been kind of hard to move the microphone around and monitor that. I've been trying to be responsive in terms of just telling people that we're logging questions, because I know we probably are starting to run short of time. But as I said, I'm in fairness, I'm trying to get them as they come in so that I'm not editing some out and skipping over.
As the all questions.
Yeah. I can speak loud.
I can. I don't think they can
Honestly,
hear
it's not for the people in the room, it's for the people online.
One thing that I just need to say is I don't want to be lost in the board and listen to right here, because it's come up, but also explicitly the number of us parents who are seeking outside instruction for the student. My son has been receiving outside instruction since first grade, is now going to be entering into fifth grade. We have to continue that. It's a lot of money. To get that instruction, we've been doing it for years, unfortunately, because we can, but because we understand that change like this takes. And I think it's important that you know that, are aware of it, especially when you see the data in terms of the improvements A lot of that is because of the instruction that this is real things for pocket. And not only that, but the pay is one part of it, but we're having to say no to other activities. My son participates in extra tutoring, instruction, 3 times a week, straight after school for 5. And that's just so that he can be at or near grade level for everything. And that's the story of a lot of people in this country, full time, but also a lot of people out in the community. Because change takes time, but our kids are moving well. And so it's something that we address it for our individual kids as well. And I don't want them to get lost in this conversation, because it does impact the improvements and the data and macros and they're hearing. It's not all because of what's happening in this day. And just something. And I appreciate what you're saying.
I just have one question that hasn't been addressed.
This is the next question online from Maureen Ruby. Can someone speak to the difference between a curriculum and a reading program? Reading programs and curriculum tools, not the curriculum. Sorry, reading programs are curriculum tools, not the curriculum. Sorry again. So can someone speak to the difference between a curriculum and a reading program? Reading programs are curriculum tools, not the curriculum.
When we're talking about breaking. And that is something that we look at with our food program, the materials that we're actually using. So with the reading program, they're actually happening time, that's part of that large number that you see. Professional environment we've been providing to actually build out to actually look at the scope and sequence and build out how we're actually addressing the standards, creating up from the back, looking at the materials inside of the office and see what and how it will apply to students.
I don't know what that is. Does anyone still have childcare?
It's like,
I just don't know if anyone haven't checked on the family. I'm sure that we're watching the library.
I have a question, and then first one is how much is the grade cost?
I don't have that.
Rachel's not coming in, sorry, thank you for that, Rachel can't come in, so I don't, Rachel's not coming in. Yeah, no.
If Rachel were to come back, it's great.
No, Rachel's not coming.
Looking at
And how many hours is it gonna take?
I don't
think we are doing, but, or is it gonna be spent before we make a decision?
I can share with them once I have that. Don't have
What are we gonna weigh about that? Because I think that is something that we need the choice. Yeah. So.
Once we have that, I don't know the entire schedule and we'll scope on the road. That's what we're trying.
But you said that she's opposed to possibly.
Hopefully, on the road, we're trying to wrap that up, trying to wrap that up.
And then my comment is for everyone that's on the board right now. I think it's important for all of you to remember that you are making a choice for children's futures. And the fact that you are ignoring the data that shows that you are making a choice to set them up for failure. And that's unacceptable. We moved back to this town, people, my husband and I grew up here, and we moved back here because we wanted to be back in this district where schools were phenomenal. And we are incredibly disappointed with our first year here. We sold our house so that we could be back. And now we are facing up with challenges, and it's just really unacceptable.
Okay, this is from Michael Paradise.
I already asked that question.
Oh, okay. We will move on to the next one then. Kate McHugh. Can we get some reference for this Rachel person from the other past clients before we invest in her assessment? Similar question, how much does she cost? So I think that has been asked several, both of those questions have been asked. Sorry, I'm trying to read and scroll at the same time. Oh, I don't know if this has been asked. How long will her study take? I think that's pending. Okay. Similar sentiment about asking other districts who have used Rachel's expertise about what their findings were. Let's see. Sorry, this one's from Maureen Ruby. Where is OS's written ELA curriculum? How does ARC align with it?
What was that? I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm sorry, the question again was, where is OS, Baybrooke's written ELA curriculum, and how does ARC align with it? On it's on the district website. Sorry, I'm trying to sort between questions and comments. This is a comment that I think there's a question here. This says, please clarify, I heard, sorry, this is from Brenda, no last name provided. Please clarify, I heard you blindly picked this program because the state approved it. Why are we paying for a curriculum person who is not invested in researching and developing a sound curriculum? Listen to science and to the parents. Teachers are doing their best to adapt to a poor curriculum. Listen to the experts, our teachers. I think that was, there were questions in there, but I think that was more of a statement. This is from Maureen Ruby. This has been asked, why don't you just share the data that we have? You don't need more data, you need to communicate what we already have. And I believe that's all the ones that I saw, unless I accidentally skimmed past one. Like I said, I'm collecting all of them for a report. Sure. Yeah. As soon as I'm going to copy these into a Word document. But as soon as I close this meeting, that people will not be able to submit questions to this chat anymore. It doesn't mean they can't submit questions still, but not here where we've been collecting them.
New topics for a lot of repetitive things, which is fine. If there's anything new that hasn't been brought up.
I just had a question. Sure. About how those answers to those questions would be shared, and if they're shared to just the person who asked it or the parents, and like how that works, but we can also the answers.
We just got a question that came in addition to that, when will the answers to the questions be shared? Yes, so I'm piggybacking on your stuff, on your thought.
You know all your concerns and questions tonight. We have to figure it out. So we can answer right now. How we're going to respond to all this. But we do have to share the responses for public to all of you.
We've never done this before. We told that when we started, this is relatively difficult. They try and figure out how we gather up, how we get this out. To answer your question, I don't know if the people sharing your contact information or want to say that we want to share that stuff with not my name on it, so I think we have to figure that out. Be respectful to people. But we're gonna take all this information and try to come up with a mechanism to consolidate and answer everything like that. It's all in the whole.
So it's almost 10. It's almost 10. So I really, I thank you all for being here and being part of this conversation. We've noted, both RP and I have noted all your concerns and questions tonight. Collectively, as we said a few minutes ago, we're going to figure out how to best respond to the unanswered questions. You're typically with an email to you, we respond with this here. So we encourage you, and we know you're all incredibly frustrated, we appreciate your participation tonight, and we will keep you informed on progress. We make as we continue to assess them. And ultimately make a decision on how to go. So whatever the positive results are, we got Gabriel, brings the rails in. Be assured that your concerns we heard tonight, that will be part of that conversation and any decision we make in your work. So thank you again for coming tonight, sharing all of your questions and concerns.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Second by Brita, all those in favor? It is unanimous, we have a. 9:47 P.M. Thank you.
I didn't.